Hello and welcome to the Leah Moses Entrepreneur Podcast, where I speak about, business, entrepreneurship, self-employment, that empowerment to get into business, right? It is my passion, and so I just want to drop gems and share and help somebody, especially in the Caribbean region, my millennials, to prosper by way of business ownership. And so today, as I was contemplating what I can speak on, it just dawned on me that, someone out there may need some insights as to how to keep motivated, how to keep going at your dreams and your goals when you don't feel like it, right? So you can consider this one something sort of inspirational or motivational, right? And so I just have a few quick points, to leave with you as to how do you keep going, right? And so first on the list, in terms of how do you keep going, you yourself have to develop a strong belief in what you're doing. Strong belief and faith, belief in what you're doing and faith that it could be done. Now, you would have heard many people say, if it has been done before, you can definitely do it, and I definitely subscribe to such a statement because it is true, right? There's nothing new under the sun, and so if somebody else was successful in what you are planning, then by all means, you have that same power and ability to be just as successful, if not more, right? So first is that belief and that faith in what you are about to do. The second thing is really tapping into sources of motivation, for lack of a better term, right? And these sources of motivation, for me personally, came from YouTube. It came from books, from specific people who are also on the entrepreneurial journey, right? There are many people, going all the way back from Jim Rohn, some people call him, to Robert Kiyosaki, to Dale Carnegie, right? You have books such as The Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, just to name some, right? They have other modern ones like the 4-Hour Work Week and many other, videos and books that can assist you, even podcasts. These very podcasts, there are many people. I'm not a motivational speaker, but there are many other people such as Lisa Nichols, right? To name one that I definitely love to tap into from time to time to get some motivation, right? So you can use resources such as these to keep motivated. You can also use networking events, business networking events. There are several in Trinidad and Tobago. You can always look around wherever you live and see where are these business meetings taking place, where are the small business conferences, and get yourself registered. Get out there and make some new contacts in the field. And this is important because an entrepreneur's journey could be very lonely, right? A lot of people may not say this, but it is a fact that it could be very lonely because a lot of the times entrepreneurs don't think like the masses, right? Remember, the masses, as we speak on now, is Monday morning. The masses are at work, or some are still in commute to their jobs. The masses believe in that 40-40-40 plan. You work 40 hours per week for 40 years of your life to get 40% of the money that you were making. And just to stick the pin in there, if you didn't realize, 40% of what you were making is worse, right, than your 100%, which is clear. However, if you can't make all your bills on 100% of your money, I want you to consider, what can 40% do for you? Can you see the massive lifestyle changes you will have to make if that's the case? And so that's the plan the corporate world will give you, right, if you're into that. And so if that's your dream and your goals, kudos to you. But this is an entrepreneurial podcast for those who desire to own their own, build their own legacy and dreams. right? So, it's important to stick around people of the same mindset for that motivation, right? To keep you going, right? Because you would have a lot of naysayers coming from the people, from the masses, the others who think about just having a job, who likes employment, right? So find yourself, your tribe, as some people say. Find those business people and get to know them, make friends of them, right? And so that can also be a good help towards you going full on towards your goal. Another point in keeping motivated is basically what I will call, it's figuratively putting on your blinders. And so it might be able to tie into the belief and the faith, but it's not just a belief and a faith, but it's really just not being distracted, not giving yourself distracted. Putting on figurative blinders means if you know you are into business and that specific business or industry, don't try having plan B's and plan C's, right? Many authors would have spoken against plan B's and C's, and so the basic theory that speaks against that is just that if you have a plan B or a plan C, you don't give plan A your all, even if you think you are, because you will be going along with plan A, and then suddenly you might encounter some speed bumps or some barriers to your progress, and so your attention starts to easily think, oh well, I have this other plan, so let me just go and do this other plan, right? Because plan A isn't working, and you may be impatient with it because you have something else waiting as an option. But we would have seen even in stories of business owners who, they saw their task ahead, or they saw their plan as their only way out. And so when you see something as your only way out, when you put on those figurative blinders and you go straight ahead to just that, you will then find all the resources you need. It will almost be as if it's life and death, right? To make sure it works. When you put on those blinders and you make sure that plan alone works. Now, yes, there's always a space and a time frame for understanding or recognizing when something doesn't make sense, which is different from just simply quitting, right? But we're not discussing that right now. What we're discussing is putting on those blinders, being focused. Don't make a backup plan, as the average person would say. You see, somebody, in theory would have spoken of having a backup plan, but that person would have been a person who is probably risk averse, right? They don't like risk. And so you need to, as entrepreneurs, we all take a level of risk that the average person may not, right? Because we don't rely on the comfort of a salary. So similarly, you need to go all in one plan, right? Yes, you can do multiple things, but there's a time for that as well, which is also not the discussion of the day, right? But go all in on that plan. See every last thing you can do to make that plan work, and only after you have exhausted every possible option, then you may be allowed to switch lanes or to change course. And then from there, it would not have been a plan B. It would have been now that you have to go all over again and plan something fresh, and that will now become your plan A, right? So put on those blinders. So just to recap, some ways in which you can keep motivated is, first of all, by building your belief and your faith in what you're doing, right? That's a mindset change. Again, the next point would help you build that mindset change, which is tapping into resources such as videos, audios, podcasts, books, you name it. Tap into some of these things where we have successful people writing about their journey, writing their process, writing about their success. There are certain magazines online that highlight, people who made it, for lack of better terms, but people who made it in life, in their business, right? You can read up on these people, and these things act as motivation, right? You also must put on those blinders, those figurative blinders. Go all in. Do not create any plan B's and C's and anything to fall back on as a safety measure. just for the mere fact that that could always distract you more than anything else. And finally, find yourself in networking events. Find yourself, amongst other like-minded people. That in itself has an energy that can propel you to your goals, even when people around you are saying that plan will never work. When they are telling you that the plan doesn't make sense. When they are telling you that nobody knows what you're talking about, it's going to flop, right? And some people may not say it out directly, but we as entrepreneurs know and we feel when people just don't believe, right? But always remember that your vision is unique to you, and that what you may be seeing is quite possible that nobody else can see, because that vision has been implanted in you and only you. So these are some of the ways I keep motivated. These are some of the things I will do, and be sure to note that it's not something you can do one-off. This is something you have to constantly be feeding yourself and boosting yourself with. Motivation wears off, right? So keep at it, keep being motivated, keep finding and sourcing people of the similar nature as yourself. Keep tapping into podcasts as these, for some vital information, understanding that there's somebody else just like you. If you're from Trinidad and Tobago listening to this podcast, there is somebody just like you if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a millennial entrepreneur. And that's another thing. A lot of young entrepreneurs out now, are underestimated by what we call the older folks, right? The seniors amongst us. Sometimes it might be your parents, your family, your closest friends, those who are older and, more traditional in the way of making money. Yeah, they tend to doubt, right? And to keep you down sometimes. And so you just need to really find your tribe, and that should be able to help you a good deal. Tap into what's the sources of information you're putting into your system, right? As some people would say, everything is energy, and I believe that. So these were my quick points today. I'd love to get feedback from you. Follow me on my social medias at Leah CL Moses, right? That's across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, you name it. And the website's www.leahclmoses.com, where you can go check out my blog and some more about me. Thank you for listening. See you next week, Monday.